Here's a really important question. How do you deal with your past emotional baggage so that it does not ruin your present relationship? Whether that is your relationship with an in law, with your spouse, with a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a friend, um, whoever it is, how do you deal with that past emotional baggage that honestly we all have? It's interesting because I was planning on doing this topic and I got an email today. And in the email, the woman asked me precisely that. She said, I'm ruining my young marriage. I'm acting in a way that I don't want to act, that I know isn't right, that I know isn't really what's going on. For instance, when my partner leaves, when my husband leaves, when he goes somewhere, I know he's not going to cheat on me. I know I don't have any reason to be suspicious and jealous, but I freak out and I'm suspicious and jealous and accusing him. And it's just getting to the point where he can't take it anymore, but I don't know how to change it. That's not an uncommon experience for people to have, especially when they've had wounds and hurts in their childhood, dysfunctional relationship failures, disappointments, and that's just one example of the behavior that can cause us to damage our current relationship. So how do you do that? Because it's really, really, really essential that you learn how to do this. Here are 5 steps. The first thing is you have to identify your issues. If you have not asked yourself, what was my childhood like? What was dysfunctional? What was unhealthy? What was healthy? What role did I play in my family of origin? Was I a caretaker? Was I the responsible child? Was I the one that acted out? Was I the quiet one that sat in the corner, the lost child, and didn't do anything at all and just kept as quiet as possible so that, because there was so much going on, I didn't think my needs were important? Did I feel ignored? Was I abused emotionally, physically, sexually? Were my needs taken care of? Were they not? Was my parent depending on me to meet his or her needs? I mean, all of these are really important questions that you have to understand about your childhood. What have you brought from your childhood that is impacting you positively and negatively today in your current important relationships? The next one is you have to ask yourself, what patterns do I recognize in how I'm reacting to things that are going on in the present that kind of look like when I was a child? I'm going to give you an example. I was raised in a home with alcoholism. And my role in that family was to be the voice, the one that spoke out and said, hey, everybody, this is what's wrong. You're not supposed to have alcohol and anger and abuse and all this fighting and stuff going on. This isn't okay. Nothing changed, but I was the one who spoke out and tried to call attention to it. So that was my role. So in my marriage and in whether it's with my husband, with an extended family member, or one of my children from childhood to adult, teenage years, the pattern that I fell into when something was happening that I felt like wasn't right was exactly that. I was the one who tried to raise the alarm and control everybody and make everybody do what they wanted. And so, it was a pattern. So I needed to understand that. The next one, after identifying your issues, is to identify your triggers. What's a trigger? A trigger is something that happens that pulls up old feelings, old memories, old hurts, old wounds, old behavior. The problem here is we don't always know what our triggers are. We don't always know in the moment necessarily that that's pulling up something from the past that is we're feeling or experiencing now. And a lot of that in our brain, unfortunately, fortunately, the way God made us to actually be acting in a self-protective mode is that when that stuff comes into our brain, it comes into the part of our brain that deals with memory, emotions, senses, and we don't have time to kind of organize it and sort it and come in here with this cognitive part of our brain, which is the thinking brain that allows us to say, hey, that's about yesterday. That has nothing to do with right now. So we really have to work hard on identifying what our triggers are so that we can kind of get past that and pull it to that point where we can think about it. So you got to know what sets me off. What is it that's bringing that stuff up? What am I overreacting to in the present? That's a really good question to ask yourself. Am I overreacting to what's going on? Because that's often an indication that that is something that's being triggered from the past. Next one is to identify your reactions. When you're criticized, how do you act? When someone is leaving and you're feeling abandoned or insecure, how do you act? When you're feeling like you're not trusting somebody or you're feeling like a little bit unsure, how do you act? When you're neglected or ignored, or your needs are not met at that moment, or maybe something that you're asking for, your partner is telling you, no, I can't do that. What is your reaction? So you've got to identify your reaction. What are they? Then you've got to get to the point where this is 4-step, identify your reality. You've got to be able to say, I'm feeling X in this situation, but X isn't happening. This is if it truly isn't happening, okay? This isn't pretending and going into denial. This is looking at your real situation now. I'm feeling distrustful of my spouse, but I know that my spouse is not having an affair, or my spouse is not seeing somebody else. So the feeling of distrust is here, but the reality is that it's not happening. When you can get to that point, that you recognize that your feelings don't have to do with what's going on. In my own particular situation, I experienced what this woman is experiencing. Growing up in that dysfunctional family, I was an adult child of an alcoholic home, or an adult child of a dysfunctional home is what we call everybody now that was in a dysfunctional home as a child. In that home, I experienced abandonment. My needs were not taken care of. It was not secure. I had a lot of fear. And so in my own marriage, in my early 20s, in my young marriage, the same thing. If my husband left, I felt like he was abandoning me. And so I reacted in a very extreme way. That was an extreme overreaction that I didn't even understand. He didn't understand, didn't make any sense. And so I had to learn to say to myself, I am not being abandoned. He's just going to work. He may be going to work for a week out of town because that's his job. This feels like abandonment, but it is not abandonment. So you identify your new reality. Then the next one is to identify your new behavior. So you have to say to yourself, if X is not true and Y is, how would I like to act? How do I want to act today in light of that new reality and not those old feelings, old memories, old reaction? So you choose. So I, for instance, said to myself, how I would like to act is I would like to act not insecure and or crazy, out of control, really upset, feeling distrustful, all of those things. I want to handle this like a mature adult who recognizes that her husband's just going out to work. Now, it took a while for me to get to that point, but that self-talk was my new behavior of talking myself through it to where I actually got to the point where when I would feel that feeling, automatically I'd say, old stuff, old stuff, old stuff. It's not now. I'm not experiencing that now. And it worked. Eventually, the feelings lessened as I was able to look at them more. So the same thing. You have to get to that point. Now, I recommend, since in a relationship, we have to be vulnerable and transparent and open in order to have intimacy, that you share these struggles with the other person in the relationship. Because if you can say, look, this is what happened to me in the past. I'm recognizing now that when X happens, I'm reacting to my past stuff. This is what I'm feeling, but I know that's not what you're doing. Could you please help me? Could you partner with me? Can I tell you when I'm feeling that way so that I'll own it? I'm going to say, hey, I'm feeling really insecure right now, but I know you're not doing anything that's making me feel insecure. It's my stuff. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling ignored. I'm feeling neglected, but I know that's my stuff and it's mine, but I just want to share with you that's what I'm feeling. And I also want to share with you that it is my goal to get to the point where as I'm owning that behavior, I'm taking responsibility for reacting differently to it. When you find out that the other person, obviously if they care about you, is going to understand and support, you'll find that you'll get to the point where your behavior will change and it will become safe for you to be honest, and all of this stuff will kind of work itself out. Overnight? No. It takes time, just as it takes time to get all of that hurt and that past baggage kind of piled up and stuffed in those suitcases. It takes time to kind of pull things out one by one and toss them away. I don't need this, I don't need that. But it is better than just continuing to carry those overstuffed suitcases around with all those old feelings, all those old triggers, all that old behavior, to where it actually ruins your present relationship. So I hope this has been really helpful. If you have any questions about this, hey, feel free to email me. You could ask me your questions about how to apply this to your particular relationship. I've also got lots of resources on my website that I think will really, really help you. So I'd like to thank you one more time for watching this video on Change My Relationship, and I hope you'll come back and watch some more.